must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Joining us. This is Good Morning Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and it is a pleasure to have you on board. This morning on the panel, I'm joined by Samuel Tawish. Tawish, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Miriam Ogutu, my colleague panelist Douglas Bundi Kirimi, and indeed our viewers who are watching us in Africa and across the world.
All right, and we are also joined by Douglas Kirimi from Meru County. Douglas, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Miriam Ogutu, and also to my friend Oresisana Tawish, and also to our friends across the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening, depending on where they are watching us from.
All right, so I'll take us through the headlines this morning on the leading newspapers, and we shall start with the Standard newspaper. Raila DP go flat out with intense tours. In the last 2 weeks, Ruto, ODM leader, and ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi have been crisscrossing the country, leaving nothing to chance as they shore up support, build networks in town hall meetings, church services, and rallies. And then MP-elect recounts a kidnap ordeal that his evangelist turned politician Njuguna Wanjiku prides himself as the firstborn of the wheelbarrow movement after Kiambaa victory. And then Huduma Namba may die in 8 days. This follows National Assembly's failure to rescue law on which it is anchored, as well as 22 other controversial statutes which courts wanted regularized. So the story is on page 8 of the Standard newspaper, and I'm sure all of us want to know what's really happening there. Can third force turntables in 2022? The story is on page 6, and how police extort fishermen. The story is on page 23. Karuturi assets to be auctioned. Page 24, and Shujaa hope to banish Rio ghost. That is on page the sport page on page 56 of the Standard newspaper. And then we head on to the Daily Nation. The main headline: isolated, Raila fights back, faced with the possibility that erstwhile NASA partners are unlikely to return to his camp. The ODM leader is keen to ward off supremacy wars and ensure that other regional kingpins stick firmly with him. And then secrets of OKA dossier. We reveal the details in a report by a technical team presented on Tuesday to One Kenya Alliance principals Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, and Gideon Moi. It outlined the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of each of the principals, as well as the alliance, and advised on how the team will navigate Kenya's political landscape. The story is on page 6. And during the morning, this show, I think we'll not dwell so much on the politics, because we will do that at 11. We'll look at the state of Kenya's politics as it is right now. Okay, and then women, girls abuse drugs for abortion, and a death in the casino story of SportsPesa. That is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. The Star newspaper: Raila moves to revitalize his 2022 machine. Former Prime Minister think tanks say they plan to confine DP Ruto to his Rift Valley backyard as they battle for Mount Kenya. And then next government will be formed by hustlers, says DP Ruto. What you need to know about CBC pioneer class enters grade 5, and senators want to tax social media, tighten regulation. And maybe that is where we should start our conversation this morning. Let's see what the senators are saying and some of the reasons they're giving to beef up the regulation of, especially in social media. The story is on page 3 of this Star newspaper. Nudes, hate speech, and vulgar or inciting social media posts could land you in trouble if the Senate succeeds in regulating social media, and they want to tax foreigners and international firms operating social media platforms in Kenya. The senators want to amend the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Amendment Act to rein in rogue social media users, to protect children and other innocent users from cyber bullies. And let us as a house and country stand up and protect especially our growing children. Even adults who are responsible must be brought to order. That is according to Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula. And terming unfettered social media a menace that will tear the social fabric if not checked. Legislators said children have become soft targets for bullies. Nudes, obscene photos and videos and hate speech are posted online. They described the bullies as criminals who use and take advantage of social media to corrupt morals, pervert society and spread hatred. Trying to regulate social media as we know it today. Tell me how easy that will be for the government, Samuel Tawish.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miriam Ogutu. Once more, of course, Douglas Bundikirimi, and indeed everyone who is tuned into this program this morning. Miriam, I will be hesitant to say this is a welcome move as Kenyans, really, that there's an attempt to try and regulate social media use. In as much as some of us will contend that the free-fall use of social media has been misused or has rather been abused by, of course, Kenyan people or the society today. I do not think that maybe the move by Senator Moses Wetangula or any other senator, for that matter, to actually institute a legislation that is going to make sure that maybe we are going to curb altogether or make it difficult for Kenyans really to interact through social media is completely a welcome move. However, because we need also to look into it from this perspective, what is the motivation behind that legislation that the senators are trying to initiate at the moment? Is it more because they feel they need to be protected as senators or as politicians? Or is it for the greater good and posterity of this country? Miriam, because again, if you make or legislate laws just for the sake of an individual or for the sake of a class of people, I don't think really that is an informed kind of move coming from our parliamentarians. Because, Miriam, we understand that there are laws governing use of social media as we speak today, and therefore if there's anyone who is misusing or is abusing the social media platforms, I think the law is very clear on how such individuals can be apprehended, how they can be arraigned in court, how they can be convicted. Because again, that is the only way we'll then allow those who are using these social media platforms in the right way, so that blanketly, of course, say for example, putting a caveat on the use of social media will really disenfranchise those who are properly or positively utilizing the social media platforms, Miriam. So I want to believe that if at all this is going to sail through, it is something that is motivated on the need to make sure that we sanitize and make sure that none of our people really can misuse or abuse the social media platforms for maybe for political reasons. Say, for example, to incite the people or to incite the masses into violence. You saw, for example, what we are, as we get now into the election time in this country, Miriam, there's a lot of things that are happening in this country. Last time I was actually covering that by-election in Kiambaa constituency, and at some point, even as news people, you cannot really understand which source to rely on. Sometimes you get people posting results, individuals just posting results that you cannot quite authenticate from polling stations, contradicting even IEBC. Sometimes you get a polling agent or a particular agent of a particular candidate posting results because it is a free fall for anyone. So in such kind of ways, really, if that is what this bill seeks to address, then I think it will be a welcome move. Because again, when you have, for example, IEBC tallying the results of that particular election or any elections in the future, and then you also have other individuals or another people with different interests posting different results. So by the end of the day, the consumer, who is the ordinary mwananchi, will be left at a disadvantaged position, Miriam, because they will not really know which one is the authentic information and which information really to rely on. And by the end of the day, we'll end up in flare-ups that we cannot quite control. So that's why I still insist that I want to believe that this move is driven by honesty and sincerity, just to bring. sanity in as far as the use of social media platforms is concerned. I submit, Miriam.
All right. Thank you so much. And, you know, a lot of governments across the world, even the US itself, which a lot of these social medias have emanated from, are really struggling when it comes to regulating, because it has become a very dangerous tool, you know, spreading information, spreading misinformation and all that. And, you know, unlike the days we only used to have the conventional media, you know, you'll just write, you know, the government will just write to KTN or something to complain about something or something of the sort. It's easier. It was much easier, but right now, I don't know. And then, according to this bill, should it be passed, the government also, this bill says that tax, you know, foreign and international firms operating in Kenya, operating social media in Kenya, they'll start getting taxed. I don't know how that will be done, but perhaps maybe they've thought it through. Douglas Kirimi, the issue of regulating social media, that would be a daunting task.
Thank you, Miriam. I think this bill is not well thought, and it is a bill that belongs to the past, and also not only to the past, it should be relegated completely in the distant past, because when you tell Kenyans you want to regulate them and also come out clearly and tell us you want to also tax multinationals that come into this country, let's say World Bank and also any other international, Philips, Shell, Total, and all that, BP, and every other international business that has set up a shop in Kenya, regional offices and also offices for the whole of Africa. They are going to go to other countries like Ghana or any other country, South Africa, that any other country that is friendly to them. Kenyan businesses across the world advertise on social media in those particular countries. There are those there are the metrics that they use and also parameters that they use to be able to advertise in the particular countries or branches that they have across the world. Now, does the government of Kenya, as the government of Kenya factored that those countries can also reset their roles and also make sure that Kenyan businesses are affected across the world? And also another question that we should ask ourselves, we had a very bad law that was being passed in the county government of Kiambu, that 70% of those jobs in the county government of Kiambu belongs to the county government of Kiambu residents. And 2 or 3 other counties followed suit until that nonsense and madness was stopped immediately. So when you tell us international businesses that are operating in this country are going to be taxed in the coming future, you are telling us essentially that Kenyan businesses too should be affected where they operate from. Again, censoring Kenyans on social media is very difficult. Kenyans are one of the most tech-savvy people around the world. And also, Kenyans are the same people who use VPN. And also when they go out there and tell us they're going to be taxing us and also regulating social media use in Kenya, it is an act in futility. Government should look for something else to do, or the sponsor of that motion should sponsor something like how they can be able to continue making Kenya a business-friendly country, lower the taxes, and make sure that the government expands its revenue base, and make sure that the people of Kenya coexist without the need for worrying about their next meal. Those are questions or bills that should be asked in the National Assembly. Those are bills that should be pushed. Those are bills that my member of parliament should support in the National Assembly. When the well-being of the people of Kenya is put first, when infrastructure, which is a major concern even in developed countries, like America and other countries. Now, US was named as number 14 in terms of infrastructure across the world. They want to go to number 1. Those are kind of progressive views that we want to see in the National Assembly. President Kenyatta has led the way by being one of the crusaders and also people who are action-oriented in terms of infrastructure. This social media regulation bill is something that should die a natural death and should not see the light of the day media, because how do you tax social media or regulate social media international companies that are going to use, or national companies that use social media in our country, or also regulate the people of Kenya? Kenyans are frustrated enough times. Kenyans are tired. Kenyans are undertaxed, are overtaxed. Kenyans are living from hand to mouth. Kenyans have lost their jobs during the pandemic. This is the last thing we should hear from National Assembly. This is the last thing we should hear from the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya. If they have nothing else to do, Miriam, I've given them a good remedy. Let them resign from National Assembly, whoever is the sponsor of that. If it is government, government should now look for something else to do, benchmark across the world, and Miriam, bring something substantial that is going to change the lives of the people of Kenya. Kenyans, I've said before, this is a joke and I'm saying it in quote, they are using social media to relieve their stress from being overtaxed across the world, Miriam. We are one of the most taxed countries in the world. We are amongst the most taxed people. Everything in this country, I think including the oxygen that we breathe. And someone sponsors a bill in parliament to regulate social media. They should give Kenyans a break, Miriam.
Okay. The oxygen that we breathe, the one in the hospital, so the one I'm having right now. I don't know. Douglas, thank you so much for that. Now, the senators warned that if not checked, reckless and rogue social media users may trigger and spread hate that can cause violence ahead of the general election. I think to that extent, I tend to agree with that part of that conversation. I don't know, what are your thoughts, Chairman Karanja?
Good morning, Miriam, and good morning to our viewers wherever they are watching us from, and to the rest of the panelists. Miriam, to that extent, where you have stopped, from where you have stopped, I completely agree that, Miriam, we need to regulate, especially when it comes to the use of social media to spread hatred, to spread malicious and damaging information. I think that the parliament have a role to ensure that anybody who spreads this kind of information that can trigger violence, that can trigger hatred, that can trigger ethnic hatred or something of the sort, we should have a regulation. And anyone who is found culpable, we should have a punishment. We should have a kind of disciplinary action that should be taken against those guys who spread those kind of information. Because, Miriam, in this era of social media, a lot is happening. And Miriam, I can say social media is a very powerful tool. And Miriam, it has been used to kill careers, to damage reputation. And you saw even the former Chief Justice, David Maraga, complaining on how guys are using social media to damage reputation, to kill someone politically, career-wise, and so on. Therefore, it's high time that we look on how we check and balance the use of social media. And that can only happen if we allow, Miriam, and you know the problem with the social media, it's an open society where everyone, every mad person, they are allowed to come and do whatever they feel is good. But when you go to the mainstream media, Miriam, there's a regulation. There's a code of ethics on how things should be done. I think we should also have that kind of a thing where we should have some kind of ethics and code of conduct that guide on how social media should be used. Because people are really using social media in a very damaging way. And therefore, I feel on that extent, especially as you're heading to 2022 general election, you saw when we had the Kiambaba election, the kind of information that was shared in public by the one Dennis Itumbi, information that was misguiding, that was creating some sort of perception that was not even a reflection of what IBC was giving. Therefore, we need to do a lot, especially this critical time that we're heading to election, Miriam. I feel and I tend to agree with those senators that we need to regulate, especially not to regulate everything, not to suffocate the use of social media space in the country, but we should punish those guys who use spread malicious information. I know it's possible because, Miriam, in the social media, we have seen guys who spread hatred, who post a damaging post, Miriam, being taken to a court of law and they're fined, Miriam. I think that should be the trend. But as the Communication Authority of Kenya and all other agencies that deal with the sharing of information in this country, they should come up with some kind of rules and regulations on kind of information that one should not post, so that we should not surprise Kenyans when we take them to a court of law with a law that maybe they didn't know exist. Therefore, it should be made a law. One should not post misguiding information and so on, so that when one does that, Miriam, they should know that they are going contrary to the law and they should be taken to a court to answer charges. But on the positive side, Miriam, social media is a very good platform. Guys have been using social media to make money. So guys are using social media to advertise their products and so on. Even the political players, they are using social media for campaign purposes. Therefore, it's a very good tool, Miriam. To an extent where it is creating employment, Miriam. When you look at the creative, the content creative industry, Miriam, in this country, guys are making millions of money from that industry. Therefore, it's a very good channel that can be used to create employment for thousands of unemployed youth in this country. But to the same extent, Miriam, we need, and I feel in everything that we do in this world, Miriam, there are some regulations, Miriam. You are not around to go overboard. I think some small regulations on the use of social media are good for our peace and stability as a nation.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And now there's another story on page 8 of the Standard newspaper. In 8 days' time, your Huduma number could be declared useless because Parliament failed to rescue the law that created Huduma number, as well as 22 other controversial statutes which the court had directed may be regularized in 9 months. High Court last year declared the laws illegal since the National Assembly passed them without consensus from the Senate, but gave Parliament grace period to regularize them, failure to which the court orders could kick in. It emerged yesterday that the two houses of Parliament have not sat or engaged just 8 days to the July 29th, 2021 deadline. Yesterday in court, the houses continued to read from different scripts. National Assembly's lawyer Paul Muite asked Court of Appeal Judge Asike Makandia, Mumbi Ngugi and Agnes Murgo to extend the period, arguing that failure to do so will create a crisis in 8 days. However, Senate's lawyer James Orengo opposed the application, arguing that National Assembly can only go back to the court that issued the orders and plead its case on why the orders were impossible to implement. Senate accuses the National Assembly of forum shopping. It argued that another Court of Appeal judge bench had dismissed similar prayers. So I don't know how much money the government has already used to print the Huduma number cards. I've not received mine, but I was told it's in my village, Chief, somewhere. So perhaps I'll go pick it. I don't know if any of you have their Huduma numbers. Do you, Tawish?
Well, Miriam, personally, I've not received my Huduma number or Huduma card for that matter. Because again, I think it is shrouded in secrecy and some mystery. I can't quite understand. We are told that the Huduma numbers, our cards are ready, and therefore we'll get information through our phones so that we can be able to go and collect them at our respective centers. But up to now, Miriam, I haven't received any notification to that effect. So I continue hoping that perhaps I'll get it anytime soon. But again, with the news coming in, like you've just mentioned, that perhaps even the Huduma number themselves could be declared null and void if, of course, the Parliament will not have moved in speed to make sure that they enact laws that would have otherwise supported these processes or this project of having the Huduma number being done in the country. But Miriam, I think sometimes our parliamentarians or the government sometimes takes us for a ride. How come that such a critical matter, something that has cost taxpayers a lot of money to actually undertake, it is not given preference, it's not given a priority by our lawmakers? How come that now we have senators like Moses Wetangula being very keen on trying to see how they can curb the use of social media and not such things that are so critical in terms of value, in terms of money value, Miriam? So I think the politicians, our lawmakers should now move in speed to avert any possibility that this kind of process is going to be declared null and void, Miriam. We've already used a lot of money, and we expected that this process, as was actually being billed by government, it was going to actually be one which is going to consolidate all the information of the people of Kenya in of course, in one document. So, Miriam, I will say that I will petition our parliamentarians that they can find time and see how they can move with speed and, of course, have this legislation put in place so that this process is legit. As we speak now, I think also they should also go to the courts, at least to seek an injunction so that nothing, a stay order rather, to allow Parliament to proceed and initiate legislation that is going to allow this process really to proceed as was envisioned by the government, Miriam. Because again, we are looking into it in terms of resources, money itself, the time that was spent by Kenyans, of course, and undertaking this process, and also looking into it really what was intended out of the objective of Huduma number, the capturing of the Huduma number details, Miriam. I mean, it is a well envisioned project by government which cannot just be thrown like that. So I challenge our lawmakers, our legislators to see into it, how they can actually move with speed and make sure that this is done within time. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you. Samuel Tawish. Now, the National Assembly had 9 months to save this law that was used to create Huduma number and other 22 other controversial, statutes there, but they failed to do that. 9 months, they never bothered to go and look into it, debate it, or try to make it legal. So why do you think this is the case, Douglas Kirimi?
Miriam, thank you. I don't understand why our parliament is very lazy and their speaker, Justin Muturi, is running for president, and critical roles that are going to safeguard the data and also make the use of government services or seeking government services are very easier in this country. Those roles cannot be given priority on the floor of the National Assembly, and also for the leader of majority in the National Assembly, the Honorable Dr. Amos Kimunya. I don't understand what is his role in pushing the government agenda or government business. As the leader of government business in the National Assembly, Dr. Amos Kimunya has failed the government as the leader of majority, and also for those technical teams that are supposed to be pushing for the same, especially the Minister of Interior through Dr. Karanja Kebicho. They should have sent reminders to the National Assembly, especially to the leader of government business, Dr. Amos Kimunya. We cannot lose a critical process like the Huduma number and a critical item in the hands of Kenyans. Consolidating the identification documents for Kenyans in one single source of truth, the Huduma number, making it a law, so making a law that anchors it into the Constitution or protect it, making it legal, Miriam, is paramount, and it was an urgent priority. For 8 months, Miriam, I don't understand what was the business of the Ministry of Interior and the State Department, the State Department and the Interior, and also Dr. Amos Kimunya, the leader of government business in the National Assembly. I don't understand also why the Speaker, all the cracks, and every researcher in the National Assembly, nobody knew that for 8 months that a critical role like the Huduma number role could not be tabled on the floor of the House, could not be debated and all that. But Miriam, to put my point home, when they were pushing for the security laws of 2014, the very controversial laws, they were doing it day and night and very passionate about it. But a document that can save me from carrying so many documents in my wallet or in my bag, when I want to travel across the world or across Kenya, I can carry that single source of truth called Huduma number, and all my identification documents, my work and my work IDs and everything is captured into one single source of truth, Miriam. And I don't know why they were denying Kenyans such an opportunity to be able to get government services easily without having so much documentation, with a single source of truth, Huduma number, or even with that number alone, it can be found through biometrics, and it can be found into computers across the world, and I could access anything that I would want without carrying the actual card, taking Kenyans into a digital world of carrying identity cards and all other documentation that shows what I do and where I am coming from and all that. But Miriam, we need to be able to deal with this laziness from our National Assembly. This is pure laziness and inept and also incompetence from our National Assembly, led by Speaker Justin Muturi. Why have they let the government down? And also the leader of government business, the leader of majority, Dr. Amos Kimunya. The critical question is, where have you been for the last 8 months? You cannot tell us you are not in office. You are in office for the last 8 months as a leader of majority. Critical laws should have been, or critical bills should have taken priority of your issues that you should have looked at and also worked on, Miriam. This kind of inept laziness and also kind of incompetence from our leaders should not be tolerated at all. Because, Miriam, I agree with the majority of Kenyans that Huduma number would have saved them a lot of headache. Miriam, sometimes I'm looking for my document or my identification document and I miss one document. And if I have this Huduma number, I can go anywhere. And actually, if I don't have the Huduma number and I have the number, the actual number on my Huduma number, they can be fed to biometrics. And my identification document would be found there, safe and tagged and stored to some source, crowd source and all that. But our National Assembly has given priority into other laws like social media bills that are not going to help any Kenyan by any means. If you look at it, Miriam, I'm tired, like many other Kenyans are tired with our National Assembly. I now understand why people in Burkina Faso went ahead and burnt their National Assembly.
Okay. No, we shall not ban our National Assembly. That house is very important. Okay. High Court last year declared the laws illegal since the National Assembly passed them without consensus from the Senate. So we've seen the supremacy battles between the Senate and the National Assembly and which one is superior and all that. I think that is what it was all about. But now this is going to cost, the Huduma number, because as far as I'm concerned, the government has already invested a lot of money into printing and getting these Huduma numbers ready for Kenyans. And now just 8 days to the July 29th deadline. And now the lawyers of the National Assembly are in court asking for an extension of time. And yet, the National Assembly and, of course, Senate, they had 9 months to work this through. Why do you think the National Assembly especially has been reluctant in taking on this issue? Jevan.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And first and foremost, I'll say that Huduma number is a very important document that we need as a country, because it will ease the burden of going around carrying hundreds of documents, e.g. the NHIF, the NSSF, and so on. But with Huduma card, you'll have all these documents in single card. And that is very important. This also ensures that the security of our documents is well safeguarded. Therefore, on that point, Huduma number was a very bright opportunity and a very progressive and futuristic approach to ensure that every Kenya has an identification. And these, even our young children were given these Huduma numbers. Therefore, these are very important thing. Also, when it comes to curb crime, because with this Huduma number, we can be able to identify a person with ease, and we can be able to prosecute them because all their documents are in one place, and we can. There's a lot that can happen with this Huduma number. But when you see, and the question about our parliament and the Senate, Miriam, these guys have been having a supremacy battle. Who is the upper house and which one is the lower house? But I don't think these things are beneficial to Kenyans. What Kenyans need is a parliament or a Senate that will legislate on their behalf, that will represent them, that will oversight, especially the Senate when it comes to the county and to devolution and the county government, to oversight and to see what our governors are doing, how they are using the resources that have been allocated to them, and to our parliament. They have a very critical role to registrate on our behalf. But Miriam, you see, our politicians and our members of parliament, they have abandoned the very critical role of registration, and they concentrate more on the politics and as sideshows. Because every weekend we see them around their constituency doing all manner of dramas, trying to secure their next re-election. All these manner of things. Therefore, they really not focus. They don't focus on the registration part of their duty, but they focus more on going around the country, pretending to be doing something when they are not doing anything. That is an art they have really mastered. They come in our village, tell us what they are doing, everything else. But when you look at the progress that they are making in the floor of the house, you see there's a minimal progress in terms of ensuring that they secure Kenyans. They have bills. And you see, for example, in the case of Huduma number, they could have moved into speed, because I saw almost all of these members of parliament praising and pouring praises to the Huduma number process and so on. Therefore, they need to have moved into with speed and ensured that Huduma number is protected, because this is a very critical document that we need. This battle that now they are taking to courts, and now we have a parliament asking for an extension of term so that they can sort iron issues out. Miriam, this is something that they could have done way long ago. Therefore, this shows that our parliament is lazy. Under the leadership of these houses, Miriam, especially the National Assembly, they are sleeping on their job, because we have the whips, we have the minority leader, we have the majority leader. These guys, and now we have the handshake, Miriam. They should have, their works have been made even easier. They could have mobilized the numbers and everything, and they discussed these issues, and they passed the required registrations, so that every Kenya, when we are getting our Huduma cards, the courts will not come and intervene and say that the process was null and void. No, that is not the case that we need, because the government has paid billions of money in this process, Miriam, and we don't want our money, our taxpayers' money, to be going to waste in a process that will not bear fruits at the end of the day. Therefore, the parliament, the Senate, they should leave their supremacy battle aside and work for the good progress of this country and for the good progress of the people of Kenya. That is the risk that we expect from them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Court Chung. You're saying you're watching us from Sydney, Australia, and all our viewers from the diaspora. Thank you so much. And of course, the Kenyans also who are watching. Keep writing. I'll go through some of your comments at the tail end of the show. We still have about 15 minutes there. And we turn to the Standard newspaper. On page 3, Kome says she will prioritize 400 corruption cases. At least 70% of land cases in the country are still pending in Nairobi. Chief Justice Martha Kome yesterday said the Environment and Lands Court has 13,500 pending cases, with Nairobi leading with 9,500. Lands Court has 9 fully fledged registries in Nairobi, Kisumu, Kericho, Nyeri, Mombasa, Eldoret, Nakuru, Bungoma, and Malindi. In an illustration of how land is critical to Kenyans, she said at least 60% of cases filed in courts are land-related. Justice Kome said she expects judges to settle cases within 3 years, and appeals should take 1 year. Every judge must take individual initiative to reduce a backlog and ensure that we hear and determine cases in a timely manner. You must reduce the number of adjournments and strive to resolve cases with fewer hearings. Always endeavor to take each case hearing date meaningfully. You must discourage interlocutory, I don't know what that is, applications and preliminary objections, as she said. Now, the ELC now has 51 judges following the latest appointments. At the same time, the CJ said 10 small claims courts will be opened. Currently, the new court settling claims of less than 1 million Kenya shillings is in Nairobi only, and it emerged that for the period the court has been in operation, 84 days, 1,222 cases were filed and 481 cases had and determined. And it is now hope that the new courts within Nairobi will be key in bringing justice to more Kenyans and further reduce the backlog as the Chief Magistrates Commercial Court and the Criminal Courts. So we see the CJ there tasking the judges on how to expedite when it comes to these corruption cases, especially involving, as 70% of these cases, of the cases in the Kenyan courts, has something to do with land. So that tells you how land is dear and near to a lot of Kenyans, and expediting these cases, because that has been the key issue when it comes to, dispensing justice in our courts. The issue with time, of time, and sometimes a case will go for so many years, as some of the people involved would even die before their cases are heard. And so all these, will the judges take this to heart and expedite, or are we likely to see the backlog continue, Samuel?
Thank you, Miriam, for that question. And I think, Miriam, one of the major concerns that members of the public or Kenyans have had in as far as the justice system is concerned in Kenya is the delayed, delayed cases or the backlog of cases in our judiciary. And I think most of these people, especially when they were being vetted for this position of Chief Justice and even judges, one of the critical things that really the vetting panel and every Kenyan was looking with a keen eye was how they were going to approach this very critical matter of delayed cases or backlog of cases in our courts in Kenya, Miriam. As they say, delayed justice delayed cases is delayed justice, Miriam. Rather, it's a big compromise when it comes to giving justice to the people of Kenya. So I think this is the right move that Martha Koome is trying to make because these were some of the key things she did promise when she was taking over as the Chief Justice that she was going to address once she is going to be given this position as the Chief Justice. And indeed, she got it. And I think now she's leaving. She's trying to see how she can really live up to the promise that she made when she was being vetted and eventually sworn into office as the Chief Justice. Miriam, because again, we have understood for quite some time that when you delay cases, when you delay offering justice to the people, many times even the victims of these particular, cases, people who are looking up to get justice, some of them actually even die without necessarily getting the justice or without getting the conclusion of the matters that actually they were taken, that were in court, Miriam. So I think once this is going to be, it's going to be speed up, there's going to be prompt delivery of justice. Every Kenyan now will be very happy and hoping that once a matter has been taken to court, that it will be dispensed as soon as possible, and there will be no excuse from our courts. And Miriam, as you asked, maybe are the judges going to take this to heart? Are they going to implement what the Chief Justice is saying? I think, Miriam, what is very critical and what has been missing in the judiciary more so has been leadership. If you have incompetent, inept people who are not really willing to lead from the front, people who are not willing to give direction, because again, the head is the one which is supposed to give the moral direction and the moral compass upon which other judges and the entire justice system will really have to fall into. And in this case, if Chief Justice Martha Koome is very keen in ensuring that she wants to, revolutionize the judiciary and dispensation of justice and to bring about a new change and a new dawn in how justice is being dispensed to the people of Kenya, the other judges have no option but to fall into place. They have no option but to follow into the queue that has already been set by the Chief Justice, because in any case, she's now the leader of the judiciary. And I think it is incumbent now upon the judges, and that if it's a case of lack of resources, that the same is going to be looked into. If it's a matter of maybe they are not having enough facilities in terms of, say, courtrooms, or maybe not enough personnel, say, for example, maybe we do not have enough judges. Those are some of the things that we'll gradually be addressing as we move forward. But I think this is a step in the right direction, that Chief Justice Martha Koome has already set the tone, has already set the ceiling, that this is how we are going to move forward from here. That is one of the things that Kenyans have really been crying for. We want cases to be determined as soon as possible, regardless whether they are criminal in nature, whether they are civil in nature, whether it's about corruption cases. As long as cases have come to court, we want to see them being dispensed as soon as possible, so that Kenyans can really get justice in as far as these cases are concerned. So, Miriam, I allow the Chief Justice for that move, and I think the entire judiciary and justice system is going to follow into her directive to see into it how this is going to be successful. I submit, Miriam.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Now, something interesting also that I noted in that story, I think, is it since her coming to power to the helm of the judiciary, I don't know if it's been 84 days already, but they're saying they created claims courts, like the small claims courts that deal with cases amounting to 1 million and below Kenya shillings. And since creation of this court 84 days ago, about 1,222 cases were filed and 481 cases had undetermined. So that really has perhaps eased the burdens from the bigger courts, and it emerged in that period that happened. And also I think when the latest appointments, now the judge has more, the court has more, judges, 51 judges. So that also helped in easing out the burden and with the backlog, because that has been a main issue But with her mentioning the time factor, which has been a bigger issue in terms of, how long these cases has taken. And a lot of people with these mega cases have ensured that these cases are stringed for a very long time by amount of, the amount of evidence they bring to court. So it takes so much time for no reason at all. Douglas Kirimi, are we likely to see now a new way in which these cases are handled, especially corruption cases that takes forever to be heard, to be completed, actually?
Thank you, Miriam. Corruption continues to bedevil our economy, continues to bedevil our social fabric and also our political scene. Why? Because corruption has been normalized when a person or your proxy or your friend or your crony is caught up in the public coffers, dipping their hands into the public coffers. You politicize it and start calling on the name of God and all that. We should also remember that God does not determine these cases in courts. And also, politicizing these things can never and will never ever solve these cases. I round the Chief Justice and I expect her to expedite these corruption cases. I hope she has heard our cry, she has listened to us, and also listened to the cries of millions of people in this country. Miriam, I've said that I will never, even if I decided to become a petty thief, I will never become a petty thief in this country, because in 1 week's time I will be sent in a very bad court, and these very same thieves will continue running for governor and the president in this country using rooted funds, where I languish in a prison, very, very far away from my homeland. And at the end of the day, Miriam, when we expect such things from the Chief Justice, she's doing her work, and also she's also doing what she promised when she was being interviewed for the job. Remember, we pay from our taxes for our lifestyle, for her to think and also come up with the frameworks on how to be able to help expedite these cases, Miriam. I cannot clap for her, Miriam, when she's doing her job, because even me, when I'm paid to do a job, I do it and my boss does not clap for me. We are the bosses and we expect nothing but industry and service from the Chief Justice and our office. But we also thank her, Miriam. I will not be selfish with this compliment, that she is trying to do something. She's expediting these corruption cases. I'm expecting that these big fish will also be sent to those harsh conditions in those prisons so that they can be able to experience the same, Miriam. And also, I'm calling out the government and also the National Assembly to work on these corruption laws, Miriam, so that the law and especially the penal code will be very clear. When you are involved in these mega corruption cases, Miriam, the punishment will be severe. Because Miriam, when these people continue stealing and storing these cases in court, they are abusing the court process, and at the end of the day, denying the people of Kenya justice that they deserve. Remember, Miriam, we have people who have stolen over 63 billion shillings in this country, bought choppers, built hotels, and also bought vehicles for their campaigners, and also continue buying royalty every weekend in this country, and they continue walking and roaming free, running for president in this country. Such cases is what I want to hear the Chief Justice, and many other cases, Miriam. And for those people who have even stashed money, stolen monies in foreign capitals, like the Geshoru case in New Jersey, they should be extradited to New Jersey or Britain to be able to face the law and also face the consequences of their corruption, Miriam. Because at the end of the day, what we are having in this country is a relaxed environment where thieves continue driving. Well, a petty thief who steals a chicken is sentenced to 5 or 7 years to prison. Well, a person that is caught with 1 row of bang is sent to court for 20 years within weeks. But a corruption baron in this country, Miriam, will just be taken to Mirimani courts and continue living huge in a life, Raj, in a life of opulence in Karen or other suburbs in this country, Miriam. So I also wish the very best to the Chief Justice as she streamlines the frameworks on how to deal with these corruption cases, because corruption has become our trademark. Corruption has become a scourge that never goes away. I submit, Miriam, and thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. All right, I see you've given the last comments there. Thank you so much. Evan Karanja, close it for us.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And the Chief Justice is doing a very good job to ensure that we clear the backlog of cases that we have in our judiciary, in our judicial system, because all these cases, Miriam, pending in courts for years, denies Kenyans justice. Some Kenyans die through frustrations from this kind of setbacks that comes from our judicial system. Therefore, it's a very good move. And if, Miriam, we can clear all these cases that have been pending for years, then Kenyans will have a reason.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we apologize.
Yeah, thank you. Therefore, we need to ensure that we have a judiciary that is up to task, that will ensure that all interest of Kenyans, when I present my case to a court of law, I should be guaranteed that it will not take more than a decade or 5 years, Miriam, pending there, going through files. The files are, and you, Miriam, to some extent, you are told that your files are missing and so on. Therefore, I think when they are clearing this backlog of cases, they should also continue the process of digitizing the court systems to ensure that these files are stored in electronic systems where they will not get lost, because the judges have been having this nonsense of saying that the files have lost, have disappeared into thin air. Therefore, if they can continue working on system that will better our judicial system, that will ease the work of the judges when it comes to the dispensing of justice to Kenyans, then, Miriam, that is the judiciary that we want. But as they are doing so, they should also deal with the rogue judges that we have in our system, rogue magistrates that we have in our system, so that we can have a system whereby every judge who is sitting at the seat giving judgments or making rulings on behalf of the judiciary, they should be people of reputable character, they should be clean, and they should not be guys who have been mentioned in corruption cases. To me, that is very important, because when we create a perception that we have clean judges, Miriam, Kenyans will have trust on the judgment made, they have trust on our judiciary. And Miriam, finally, the Chief Justice, Lady Justice Martha Koome, she must ensure that the fight against corruption will not be stopped by the judiciary. He must make judiciary a system that will go in history of this country, that is the arm of government that helped in the fight against corruption. We want to fight corruption, and we don't to have courts at the setback when it comes to fight this monster that has denied Kenyans access to rationality, that have denied Kenyans access to prosperity, that has denied Kenyans good infrastructural development. We need to fight corruption, and we need to ensure that justice is delivered without delay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jevan Karanja, Douglas Kirimi, and Samuel Tawish. We shall be back here. I know today we've stayed clear of the politics, but that is because that will be our topic at 11 a.m. So we needed a break from that in Good Morning today. Good Morning Africa show, but we'll be back here at 11 a.m. and we shall be looking at the state of politics here in Kenya. And there's a story I saw on page 14 of the Daily Nation. I think that is where we shall start from. Let me just read the headline and then I'll just leave it there. That is where we shall start our conversation when we return. Okay. No, not on this page. All right, I'll come back with it here at 11 a.m. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Miriam Ogutu. A very good morning to you.